Ayomairo Essay. And this morning I have joining me for today's edition, Waji. Morning, Waji. How are you doing today? Waji's trying to get his mask
I
off.
forgot to take off my mask. Good morning, Aya. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while. That's why I was so excited. So welcome,
Sorry
Waji.
about that. I was struggling to take my mask off.
Oh, no, it's okay.
And good morning, Lagos.
Excellent.
Right.
Now, if you'd like to join the conversation today, you can watch us live on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. And you can also send us a message on WhatsApp. Here's the WhatsApp number 0809 444 0981. Again, that's 0809 444 We have some important, I think, headlines to get through this morning. Hopefully, we can get through as many as possible. The very first one, which we had touched on earlier this week, but now we have more detail in terms of, and we have some more details with regards to the INEC online portal for registration of voters ahead of the 2023 general elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, yesterday launched an online portal for Nigerians to register as voters. This report is in this day newspaper. It's quite detailed, and that's why I'm so if you'd like to read it, it just talks about the processes. Why when we talked about this, a number of people asked some questions as to transfer of votes or change of resident. They talked about who should reapply. Should I, if I didn't get my PVC last time, should I go ahead? And this breaks it down. That's why I think it's such an important report. It's opening on the 28th of June, which is this Monday. Please take us through the story.
Yeah, thank you, Aya. I think you pretty much covered the highlights of the story, which indicate what INEC are doing to make registering for your PVC or registry to vote a lot more seamless. And the article is actually very, very detailed in that particular regard, with the specifics of what you need to do, how long it's going to take, the pre-registration and different steps that you have to go through to make sure that anybody who's trying to register for the first time. It also speaks about how those who do not have access to be able to register online, vis-a-vis a smartphone or a laptop computer or any other accessible device, can equally go to over 2,700 areas where they can actually register online.
Yeah.
I welcome this development. I think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
It's something that I know that INEC actually has been pushing for quite a long time,
Yeah.
but for some odd reason, federal government just never signed off on it. So credit to INEC for continuing the push, because this is the way to go. A couple of things happen when you do this. You make sure that the system for registering becomes a lot more seamless.
Yes.
And by making it a lot more seamless, you now get more people to register. The more people you register, you now create a better, healthy environment when it now comes to the political election process, which is absolutely necessary, especially when you now begin to see that you have an emerging voter class coming up, given that the population of Nigerians that are significantly skewed towards the youth population are now emerging into the voting age, which is 18 and above. So you're going to have a significant number of individuals who are already tech savvy, who are already tech inclined, and you need to be able to make this accessible for them. Because what will happen ordinarily is that people will be discouraged. They'll be discouraged from going to centers. They'll see the long lines. They don't want to stand in line for hours and hours, deal with that stress, deal with nefarious activities taking place in those particular centers, deal with intimidation, whereas they can just sit in the comfort of their home. If they have access to these particular portals, they can just go ahead and register. So I think this is a welcome development. The devil's obviously in the details.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should expect perfection from the beginning. There will be hitches. There will be things that will go wrong, which is expected with any kind of new portal. And INEC have been very open about that. And they've indicated clearly that, look, we're going to test this over the next 1 year to make sure that everything works. Let's see how many people we can onboard. We'll go back, recalibrate, learn from our mistakes, and then build a more robust platform. So I welcome that. And I think 2 years before your next general elections is a good enough time to be able to have this in place. So I do welcome it. I think it's smart. And I think Nigerians should give it a chance.
Yeah.
Let's not kill it before it's actually launched. Let's not be too pessimistic.
Yeah.
And let's just see what happens. You never know. You could be pleasantly surprised.
Excellent.
So I think the onus is on us to give it a shot, see how it works, and let's take it from there.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Waji. Very important. And in this article, it breaks down those who who are eligible
Right.
to register. And also, it's important to mention that you will still have to present yourself for data capture.
Of course, yeah.
So you'd go online and then you'd get you can then
So that's
walk
why it's called
into.
pre-registration,
Yes.
because the registration won't be complete until you now have captured your biometrics.
Yes, so hopefully this should be a more seamless process, like Waji mentioned. All right, let's move on to our next story. Buhari leaves for the United Kingdom for UK checkup as doctors threaten fresh strike. Punch newspaper has a way of putting their headlines. So the president, Muhammadu Buhari, will on Friday, that's today, proceed to London for a scheduled medical follow-up. His special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, disclosed this on Thursday in a statement titled President Buhari off to London Friday for medical follow-up. Now, the last time he was away in March, and he went away for 2 weeks. I think it's worthy of note, as it was highlighted in this article, that if the president has to be away for 3 weeks and upwards, he has to formally hand over to the vice president. And since the last time, the famous last time he left and handed over to the vice president, he's never done it. So he just goes for that 2 weeks. Make sure that, in fact, it wasn't specified if it would be two. It sounds like a little over 2 weeks, but certainly beneath
21 days, right?
Yeah, 21 days. And then side by side, even though it's unrelated but related, because the medical association are threatening to go on strike again, back to this issue around payments, especially with regards to registering on the new government payment site. They say yes, the backlog from January, February, March has been paid, but they are concerned about the future.
Yeah.
So please let me know what you think about this, Swaji.
You want to know what I think?
I cannot wait. When I saw this story, I was like, Waji, I
Okay.
cannot wait
I mean,
to hear your thoughts.
you asked for it, so Lagos, get ready for the smoke. The mere fact that this is a topic of conversation in Nigeria is an absolute embarrassment. The fact that our president, in a space of 3 months, has to travel to the United Kingdom for medical checkup, medical follow-up, medical whatever, is absolutely mind-blowing. Because as the #1 citizen of this country, which he is citizen #1 as president of Nigeria, the fact that he is traveling to go for his own personal medical checkups shows and indicates that he has absolutely no faith in the Nigerian medical system. So if you cannot lead the charge by setting examples of receiving your personal medical care here, then what are you saying for the remaining upwards of 200 million Nigerians? That we are just literally hanging on a hope and a prayer that the doctors that we see will somehow have the capacity to look after us? If you can get on your tax-paying presidential jet to go and seek medical follow-up or medical checkups, whatever you want to call it, and you're going for twice in 3 months, what else do you want me to think? Or what else do you want anybody to say? Body language is everything. Leadership is everything. And the way that you communicate certain things, implied or unintended, speaks volumes to the state of affairs in this country. I will say it again. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is going to the United Kingdom for the second time in 3 months for a medical checkup. That alone is an astounding condemnation of the medical system here in Nigeria. And I do not and cannot fault any medical professional for wanting to go on strike because they have not been paid their allowances, their arrears, or what is due to them in a backlog system or whatever is future coming, because you have inspired zero confidence in the entire system and to the wonderful doctors that we do have in this country that put their livelihoods and are not earning anything on the line every single day with limited capacity, limited resources, do their best to make sure people are literally not dying. But then you, the #1 citizen of this country, can get on a presidential jet that is paid by taxpayers of this country for you to go and seek your own medical whatever. You're not a private citizen. You're a public citizen. Because people always argue with me, that he has a right. No, he does not have that right. He's an elected official. So if you want to seek medical care, get the services ramped up in Nigeria. Get the medical facilities working to 100%. What on earth are you telling me? What on earth are you telling me? If I am supposed to inspire and be encouraged by your behavior, you are equally telling me that I should not also trust the medical system in Nigeria. That I should go and find money whichever way I can if I happen to get sick.
So let's talk. Now you've brought on the topic of money. While when I heard the story, right, I just thought, okay, have we actually done a cost to Nigerians? And thanks for emphasizing again and again that this trip is sponsored by taxpayers. That's you and me. Have we done a cost of his travels since he became president, and then look at that side by side with how much money goes into the healthcare system? And don't forget that every year, annually in the budget, Aso gets a budget for the for healthcare, for Aso for the hospital there. Yes, specifically. And it's not small money. I wish I could pull up the figures every single year. So put that, the cost of the overseas trip. So, and of course, the cost is not only the cost of his treatment, it is the flight, it is the officials, accommodation, everything, right? And the frequency with which he travels. Have we put that cost into consideration and looked at how, because sometimes you don't think about certain
we don't. We don't. That's just the truth. And if you want to actually start going into those figures, you might give yourself a stroke. I don't want any of us getting unhealthy for overthinking. We all need to protect.
We all don't have a private jet.
No, we don't. We all need to protect our mental space. And I refuse to get into this analysis because I just happen to have little knowledge of what it costs to actually fly in terms of just aviation fuel and landing costs at Heathrow Airport or whatever airport you land in the UK. I'm not even getting into the medical bills of whatever. We don't even know what this man is going for. The fact that he's traveling within a space of 3 months could speak to some illness that this man is 80 years old. We do not know what the severity of it is, so we don't know what he's even getting treated for because they will not disclose it. So my point is, when you, to your point, when you now begin to analyze those costs and you now say to yourself, okay, well, can that be diverted towards other things? You're asking for an aneurysm. Okay, you're literally asking for your brain to explode. So like I said, you asked me for my opinion. This is my opinion. But for me, these are the dangerous antecedents that leaders exhibit that they don't understand the consequences of. Absolutely. I'll say it again. These are the dangerous antecedents that leaders exhibit that they do not even understand the consequences of.
Excellent. And that's a problem. Excellent. Barrister Dan Okudua, to the previous story, says, good morning, Ayon Waji. Kudos to INEC for the introduction of online registration. It is a giant step in the right direction. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. So Tajuddin from Alimosho thinks that, he says I should let you know that neither the president nor his aides think as deep as you are talking. And then for Richard, say it again, Waji, the man with words. The constant overseas medical attention of our president and political leaders is an indication that the medical system in Nigeria may not get better. They have left the rest of us to our own devices of watching and praying. And then Dipo said, reality check, beyond the obvious incompetence of this government that fails to fix our health system, we also have people who are not medically fit. Ron, I just didn't want to delve into that because one of my thoughts was like, you should also, when you go for a job, one of the things you go for is medicals. You want to check that you're fit for the job. So we elect people who are not fit for the job, and it's the cost to the nation. So it's one of the things, and it's not discriminatory.
Powerful
it's nothing.
Comment.
Yeah, it's not discriminatory. It's just that you look at.
Yeah, because in certain jobs, if you don't pass your medical, you will not get employed. You're employed. Sorry.
Because if not, you're going to spend the money on time. It's not just money; it's also time to make decisions. Because there's certain files that will not be attended to while he's away. All right, so thank you very much, Dipo. Lak says, State House Permanent Secretary Tijani Umar said Umar had presented a budget of 19.7 billion naira for 2021, out of which 1.3 billion naira was proposed for the State House Clinic from the Guardian newspaper. Thank you so much, Lak.
When I said that if we begin to delve into this, you're asking for an aneurysm, okay. Right.
All right, I think one person had said they didn't see anything wrong. I want to check.
No, of course. I mean, and people have that opinion, but I always like to dispel that opinion that you cannot look at it from the lens of a private capacity.
Yeah.
If you are a CEO of a company or your own entrepreneur, you can go for medical checkups wherever you want. Yeah. But as a publicly elected official, your body language and what you are communicating when you leave your country is that the medical system here is not going to be looked after. End of story.
Let's move on to our next story. Lagos Abuja Airport, others to be concessioned by August. Guardian newspaper reports. The federal government yesterday said the quartet of Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Kano airports will be concessioned by August. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, said in Lagos that the last phase of the concession preparations will be done between this month and July. I would love to hear your take on this one, Waji. In terms of concessions, do you think this is great news or good news or not too good news for the aviation, well, our airports as it stands? Are we looking forward to better services? What's the implication of this? What is the arrangement of this? It would be nice for us to have that breakdown.
The only people that have an issue with any airport being concession are people who currently work there. Okay, why? Because the unions do not want their people to lose jobs, and that's the only reason why anybody would have any problem. I don't know any international airport anywhere in the world that isn't concessioned off. Not one. I think, dare I say that the Gatwick Airport in London, I need to double check this, was actually concessioned off to a Nigerian.
Yes. I'll get his name.
Thank you.
Burna
Okay.
Boy sang about him.
Right. Okay. So you have Nigerians abroad that airports have been concessioned to, but here we're complaining about concessioning off airports to private companies here in Nigeria. It's high time. These four airports are your international ports of entry. They are the first. I always say your port of entry is the first experience anybody coming into Nigeria is going to have of your nation, and it indicates a lot of psychological, perceptual, spatial thinking about how they want to interact. If you're looking for foreign direct investment and somebody's coming into your country and they now have a horrible experience coming through your port of entry, is going to skew their perspective about how they see you and whatever brand you're trying to put out there. So I welcome concessioning. I've been calling for this for God knows how long, because it is the only way we're going to get any kind of efficiency at these particular points of entry. We have to professionalize certain services in Nigeria. I've been saying this for a very, very long time. Not just myself, but a lot of people. There are private companies that do these things exceptionally well. And these private companies are not outside of Nigeria. They are within the country. They start with getting a roadmap and an end-to-end process of what it takes to run an efficient system, how much it costs to run that efficient system. And that now dovetails into your recruitment process of making sure you get the necessary resources to run that system. It also now speaks to the training, the learning and development and the talent management of those resources to make sure that they are held to accountability, they have targets, they have things in which they have to do, and you now run it at a profit. So that way you're making money to continuously ensure that those involved are paid properly, and you also return money back into the system to continue that level of efficiency. The concessionaire system works. It has worked any way you see it happen. So once again, the unions, my advice to the unions is this: if you have an issue because you're worried about your people losing jobs, even though it's been indicated that nobody's going to lose a job, how about this? How about you begin to upskill the individuals who currently work there, so that therefore they can have first right of refusal when it comes to recruitment? Have they passed certain tests? Have they been trained in certain areas? Have they been given certain skills? Tick, 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 yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So that way, what happens is that if you want to protect those individuals, then give them an opportunity, give them a chance, but you have to give them the skills that are required if they want to operate in a concessionaire environment, which is going to be driven by specific targets. You just can't be lollygagging on the job and misbehaving and asking for bribes and all that other rubbish. You have to act in a professional manner. If you cannot operate in that environment based on XYZ, then I'm sorry, you have to go. So I think the unions need to be a bit more creative beyond complaining. Maybe they can take some of that union money, invest in their people, upskill them, and get them ready for concessionaires.
Thank you. Thank you. You've touched on a very important note. We talk about unionism in Nigeria, and oftentimes this thing you've mentioned, we don't talk about it often.
No.
So that you also invest in your members, and it's not just about complaining, stopping actions, going on strikes, etc. Jibril on the road says this analyst is on fire this morning. Aki is always on fire. So excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Now, in terms of the next story, I would regard it as a bittersweet story. Buhari allocates 22 three-bedroom bungalows to 1994 Super Eagles squad. This day newspaper. I think kudos to the President Muhammadu Buhari, who has approved the allocation of 22 three-bedroom houses to the Super Eagles squad that won the African Cup of Nations in Tunisia in 1994. Now, it's bittersweet because it's sweet. Let me start with the sweet part. They are getting what they were promised. The bitter part is that two people on this list have died.
It's more than
more than
more
on
than
this
two.
thing, yeah. So we have on Wilfred Agbonvare and Stephen Kesh Uche Okafor as well, unfortunately dead. They've passed on. Some of them are older. Then the other part of it is that this is just an approval. As some people have mentioned already, in Nigeria, approval doesn't often equate to actuals. And so until we see, seeing is believing. Please, Waji, take us through this story.
1994 was 1994 through 1996 and beyond was the golden era of Nigerian football. I always tell this story of when because I was living abroad then, and I used to come back to Nigeria quite often. And I remember transiting through, I think it was Belgium actually. My brother and I transiting through Belgium, and we were coming back to Nigeria for holidays or something, and we showed our passport, and the immigration officer at that time looked at our passport, and he says, "You're both from Nigeria?" We said yes, and then he put 2 thumbs up and he said JJ.
Oh wow!
And that for me was till tomorrow remains a very, very, because I think JJ was playing in Belgium at that particular time, and he was known as a hero, and it was a very proud thing in the footballing world. That Super Eagles team in 1994, if it wasn't just for a mishap against that game in Italy, I am convinced in the World Cup that we would have made it to at least the semifinals. And when you look at the list of these individuals, the names of these individuals, these are national heroes because of the way they represented Nigeria, the way they carried themselves on the football pitch and off the football pitch. And it was promised to them. I think Abacha was the one president who was president at the time, and he did promise it to them. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, because they were actually very good with those promises back then, especially IBB. So I'm not sure why that never happened. So Buhari has now taken us back to an era to at least approve. Let's hope, like you said, it actually becomes a reality. There are 6 individuals who have been given already. I would hope that Rashid Yakini is actually one of the individuals, because he's passed away. He's one of the individuals who has been given already. I didn't see his name on this list.
His name isn't on this
list. But they said 6. No. They said 6 have been given already. So I'm hoping that he's among the 6 that have been. 6
players and 3 technical.
Right. So I'm hoping he's among those 6 that have been awarded this particular reward that the federal government had promised to them. This is 27 years ago. It's absolutely insane.
Also, just to mention, because that's Chioma Ajunwa, the Nigerian gold medalist, got her house. This one is an actual give-it. So the Lagos State government presented her a 3-bedroom flat. I'll say a promise that had been delayed since '96, Olympics '96.
Gosh, Chioma Ajunwa, long job,
All right, congratulations to our heroes, like you mentioned.
So I just hope it's. I mean, not that they needed them. A lot of these guys have done very well in their individual career. Not all of them. Good enough, but this list.
Like, okay, so let me mention. Okay, some of them. Okay, so Peter Rufai has endorsements. So yes, Aloy Agu. I haven't heard anything like that. Ike Shoromu.
They all played abroad.
Samson Siasa is doing well.
All of them. A lot of them settled. They're getting pensions from their clubs in Europe. That particular group, maybe 1 or 2, but that particular group did exceptionally well. But it doesn't change the principle. The principle was the federal government promised them this, and they should deliver.
Absolutely. All right, going back to INEC story, the Daily from Maja says I should read this comment. INEC online registration is a welcome achievement. It should be our first feat to electronic electoral system. And INEC should do more by implementing online voting infrastructure to fully transition as a developed country for electoral equity and fairness, as it's done in the US and other developed countries. I like the fact that I put us as one of the other developed countries. And then we have from JP saying 1994 till date before a nation attempts to keep her own promise. It's a shame. Even today, Lagos State owes allotment since 2014, but no one is held accountable. It is sad. All right, regarding airport concession, kudos to Waji for reference to the workers to up their skills. I feel same should apply to NLC Nupeng. They should work on the workers of the refineries staff to work for their salaries and let them know that if they keep the refinery non-functional, then the masses are the ones to suffer. not just striking and asking government not to remove
We've got to
subsidy.
be balanced.
Beyond from here, but absolutely.
Got to be balanced.
All right, talking about upskilling, it's interesting that the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Professor Skiama, we talked about that in this next story. Nigeria high unemployment figure indefensible. He said the government, he said the figure is indefensible and that the situation has been compounded by the COVID-19 scored. He said it will be very short-sighted, myopic in the civil service to employ people. What he's saying instead is that people should upskill themselves, just like what you mentioned. What do you think about that?
Well, number 6 and number 7, these two stories are connected because it's talking about high unemployment and it's also talking about the solution that is the profit that he opened up gaps in the civil service. Now, let's start with the latter part of opening up gaps in the civil service. The reason why that is brought in is because the Nigeria in a very unique position. Federal government happens to be the highest employer of labor still to date, which is a shame. And when you think about the global benchmark, 1% of employment is usually in the federal government. 99% of it is in every other sector that you can think of. Now, I will challenge our own highest employment of labor primarily because of this. These are only recorded statistics. You have to remember that our informal sector has not been properly captured, which actually employ a vast number of people in all sorts of odd jobs where people are earning a living wage. So because that has not been captured, it's quite inaccurate when you now begin to report these figures. But going back to the statement made about the unemployment numbers being indefensible and also opening up gaps within the civil service and employment people is not the right way to go, I 100% agree with that. What you have to do is you have to ensure you create an enabling environment to now, going back to the point I made, make the informal sector come online so they can be recognized, they can be taxed properly, and they can be regulated. So that way you can now begin to have a very healthy tax regime that employs people are protected, they can contribute towards pensions, all these things are connected. But it starts from the federal government ensuring that you have a stimulated economy and an enabling environment for healthy competition to flourish, without which you're going to continue to have this problem. So we just continue to go about things the wrong way, throw our hands in the air and act like it's some kind of external or existential force that's controlling these things. No, not everything is your village, people. Sometimes it's inaction and deliberate ignorance of certain things. So we now need to focus on making sure you have an enabling environment. It starts with things like power. It moves on to things like security. It goes on to things like infrastructure. You need to do anything. Just make sure I have power to power my business. Make sure that the security so that people don't come and hijack me when I'm trying to conduct my business. Make sure that the infrastructure is in place that allows me to now build and have structures and everything else. And make sure that distribution networks are in place through my road, my rails, and healthy moving systems. These are the absolute foundational tenets of a healthy economy that the federal government can do and should do. Why federal government always wants to get involved in all sorts of things, I do not understand. Just make sure the environment is enabling for businesses to thrive, and then you will now see a reverse in these unemployment numbers.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Well, I is of the opinion that it's a national security issue for the president to continue to visit the UK.
I agree.
Check-up, even more than Twitter operations in Nigeria. They had to go there. So the Nigerian the Nigerian who bought Gatwick is called Adebayo Ogunlesi in a deal worth £1.455 billion. Just to put it up there. All right, final story. We have just a minute to go. FCT on alert as cholera kills 7. This number in their headline is kills 7, 91 infected. Vanguard reports that the Federal Capital Territory Administration has placed residents of the territory on high alert following a reported outbreak of the severe fecal gastrointestinal infection. So it's a severe form of cholera and it has taken lives. The reason why I thought to highlight this is that we talk about COVID, and we've talked about, and there are other diseases in Nigeria that are taking lives, and Lassa fever is still prevalent in some parts of the country. We cannot ignore this. If only we can face these diseases with the same gusto we did with COVID. I hope maybe malaria would have been out a long time ago in Nigeria. But please take us through this story, Waju.
I mean, you've captured it perfectly, and we cannot ignore that there are other diseases that have killed more people than COVID-19, and that is just the truth. You've mentioned Lassa fever. We're talking about cholera, and it's about people just public health awareness. Cholera always comes around this time of year when you have the rainy season, you have floods, you don't have a proper waste management system. People are not being hygienic with regards to how they prepare their food or what they do with their water. So it's about public health awareness. That's literally how you combat cholera. So that's it. It's just about being open defecation and all these different things. So once you just have a better system of informing the public of how to go about with these precautionary measures when it comes to your health and safety, then people need to listen. There's a lot of ignorance in the system. There's a lot of ways that people operate that are just not healthy, and people just need to be a bit more conscious about that. And I think it's important that we talk about these things more. It can't just be COVID, vaccine, non-vaccine, who's taking vaccine, who's not taking vaccine. There are many other things happening. There are many other diseases that do kill and wipe out communities every single year, every single month. So we need to have definitely a more robust conversation around these things, create a higher sense of public awareness, make sure you reduce and eradicate the apathy around being health conscious, and then we can see a better set of people living into better lives when they're more aware of their health conditions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Waji. Someone asked Lawrence that how can he get the replay of today's Freshly Pressed. You can go on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, and watch again and listen to the fantastic analysis on the news stories for today. Thank you so much, Waji. Waji is at the corporate MC on Instagram. We can't. That's the only one that people can reach out to you now.
Yes, please follow me.
Follow him, corporate with a K, and we are at Smooth981 on Instagram. In a few minutes, Tega will be joining me for today's edition of the Locker Room 981. By the way, from next week, the 1st of July 2021, a few changes. So immediately after Freshly Pressed, we'll be having Lagos Talks 981. So that's changing. And this would give us an opportunity to take more comments, more calls, and have a bit more time to analyze the stories. Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, it is, man.
So for those who send in messages or are like battling us in the comment section, I want to call and express themselves, this is your moment. And we look forward to that. And your programs, your favorite programs such as Locker Room, Grapevine will still be on by 9 a.m. So look up to new things in July. Thank you very much for listening.
Union Bank.
Thank you so much, Waji.
My pleasure.
The stories.
My pleasure.